Hi guys, I'm Aiden and welcome back to the Archive channel. For today's video, I want to give you 5 quick tips inside of Davinci Resolve. These are all things that I wish I knew, and now that I know them, I want to share them with you all, because I think the more knowledge that we all have, the better we all get. Alright, let's start first with quick tip number 1. Let's say you have some media and you throw it onto your timeline like so. And already I know I need to do a couple of adjustments to get this to look right. So we need to zoom in a little bit to like 1.2. I know I don't really need these audio tracks. And if you're not selecting the one you want, you can unclick link selection. So now you can click on specific tracks like so. You can move this up. And then I know I need to get the volume down to -11, and there we go. Now I'm finally ready to start cutting up this footage. That's cool and all, but it does take a long time, and if you ever need to reuse this, okay, we drag it in, and now I gotta do all that stuff over again. Well, what if I told you there was actually an easier way? You can actually do all of this inside of the media pool, so instead of adjusting it in the timeline, click on your clip, and you'll notice all the inspector items are still here. So we can make this -11, zoom into our clip. We had it at 1.2. And how do we get rid of those audio tracks? Well, for anybody who watched my multicam tutorial, it's actually pretty easy. You right click and go to clip attributes, audio, and I know I only want 3 and 4, not 1 and 2. So let's just delete them. Hit OK. And now when I drag and drop this clip into Davinci, all of our settings are already adjusted so we can get right to cutting it up. This is helpful if you know you need to make adjustments like this. And the neat part is you can always just undo them once you're in the timeline. So we can just get rid of this and make our volume normal again. And if we want our audio tracks back, that's easy to reverse too. You just go to clip attributes, add in 2 tracks, and then all you would have to do is readjust the embedded channels so that it starts at 1 and goes to 8. Basically, you put them in order. But that's pretty much it. Save yourself time by making adjustments in the media pool rather than the timeline. For my next tip, I want to talk about sound effects. Let's say we're watching through this footage and Mega Man gets hit right here and we want to add a funny sound effect. So I have this pop sound we can use. Throw this onto a track. Zoom in a little bit, and then right when he gets hit, there's this pop sound. And that's, good on its own. But a lot of people would then want to add on an audio effect, like reverb, for instance. So they would go to effects, drag in reverb, and then you have this huge menu, and then you gotta adjust all the different sounds and be like, does this sound right? Probably not, but we'll listen. That kind of sounds bad. But what if I told you there was a better way to do this? So we can get rid of that and delete the sound effect off the clip. And what we're going to do is add our effect onto the track. Oh, here's a little bonus tip, actually. If you go to index, you can actually get access to all your audio tracks and even rename them or reorder them. So for audio 3, I'm going to title this Reverb, just to help stay organized. Then drag our reverb effect onto the track. And then rather than using these settings, I actually have a preset that I picked up from another YouTuber. I'll leave that video down in the description below. I called it SFX Reverb. And basically what you can do is just copy these settings right here. And then when you're done, hit this little plus button to make a new preset. That way you'll always have it available. And what that does is it took our audio from this, just a normal pop sound effect, to this.
I'm still thinking about Mega Man, bro.
And if you heard, even after the clip ended, you could still hear the reverb. Let me play it again. Watch where the clip ends and listen to when the reverb ends.
I'm still thinking about Mega Man, bro.
So the reverb's still going, even all the way over here. That's the benefit to putting it on the track itself. It makes so any sound effect you put on there gets the full reverb as opposed to just putting it on the clip where it sort of ends abruptly whenever the clip ends. Now it goes without saying, don't use this for every single sound effect. I would mainly use it to highlight funny moments or to add atmosphere to your edits. Like this clip, for instance. It's just sort of this sword sound effect. By itself, it sounds fine. If we turn off the reverb, sounds okay, if a little bit flat. But in an edit, when you have the reverb on, that kind of makes it a little bit more dramatic, right? It adds to the atmosphere. So just be cognizant of when you use it, and you'll end up with some edits that sound a whole lot better. For the next tip, I want to talk about a page not often used in Davinci Resolve. No, I'm not referring to the cut page. I'm talking about the media page, baby. Be honest, how many people just import their media into the edit page and then forget about this entirely? Look, I completely understand it, but there's actually some cool things inside of the media page. You just have to know the layout. So on the right side, we have our inspector, as always, but we also have some audio meters or metadata or this capture option. And if you don't want this entire bar taking up the full vertical real estate, you can click up here and it goes to half, which I think is much nicer. Here you have your preview window, as always. And this part is pretty cool. This is actually a one-to-one layout of your PC. So if we go to see users, myself, and desktop, we have my entire desktop right here. So if I needed no more V4 onto my media pool, I could just click and drag. Now if I go back to the edit page, there is no more 4 just thrown on there right away. Alternatively, if you see something on your desktop that you need to get rid of, rather than minimizing and throwing a clip into the recycle bin, what you can do is right-click and click delete permanently. Now, this doesn't just delete it from your Davinci Resolve media pool. No, it deletes it off your computer. So when you click on it, it gives you a little warning that you can't recover these files or undo stuff. So this just saves a little bit of time if you're having to clean things up to do it inside of Davinci Resolve. I got one more cool thing to show you. Oftentimes, people use video editors for the simplest of reasons. They maybe throw in a clip and then just want the audio. So they go in to the edit page like so, drag a clip, and then they're like, oh, I don't really want the video. So they click off of that, make an I and an O point, and then go to the deliver page and then render out just that audio so they can use it for something later on in their project. Well, it turns out the media page makes that process way simpler. If I go over to my desktop, same clip, CO50, right click and click extract audio, bam, there it is. And it lives right on my desktop. And you can do this for like any clip that you want, which can be pretty handy if you need both the original and the audio to sync, or if you just need specific parts of clips as well. This I find just saves a lot of time, and the media page is the only place you can do it. All right, for tip number 4, I'm going to warn you, this one's probably going to take a little bit longer, but I think it's the most useful. A lot of times, whether you're the person that shot the footage or a client's giving you footage, it'll be in this weird sort of gray look. What is this exactly? This is referred to as log footage, and it's actually a good thing. This basically saves detail and dynamic range to get the most out of your camera. The problem is you have to actually turn it back to normal so that when you're editing, it looks right on most people's monitors. How do you do that? Well, you go to the color page inside of Davinci Resolve. Before we get started, I recommend changing some project settings in this little gear right here. Make sure color science is set to Davinci YRGB. Don't check this. Timeline color space should be set to Davinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. And output color space should be set to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. Warning, this is different if you're on a Mac. These are Windows specific settings. For you, your output color space might be Rec 709 Scene or Rec 709A. I would just sort of look that up among colorists who actually use a Mac. Also, don't worry about these settings affecting the color of your normal clips. This is really only specific to the color page. So don't worry, this isn't going to mess anything up. Once you have all of that saved, now we're ready to begin our grade. And I keep saying grade here, but what I actually mean is color correction. Anybody can use this page to add a special look to their footage, maybe making it teal and orange or black and white. But that type of stuff usually isn't necessary for day-to-day work inside of DaVinci Resolve. Most people just need to fix their footage, and that process is called color correction. So I'm going to show you a 5-node setup that will take any clip and correct it to make it useful inside of DaVinci Resolve. So here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to get rid of this for now. And what I would like for you guys to have is make sure none of these are selected, so you only see your preview and your nodes. There's also some stuff down here, but don't worry, we'll get to that later. Like I said earlier, we want a 5-node setup. So you can right click and add a node like this, add serial, or you can use the shortcut Alt-S, which is what I'm going to do. Nodes aren't really all that complicated. They can be in the Fusion page, but for color, it's pretty simple. Right here is the start of our clip, and right here is what's being shown out to the edit page. It's the end of our process. From here, you can think of nodes like layers. So whatever we do to node 1 will be shown on to node 2, and whatever we do on to node 2 will be shown on to 3, 4, and 5. You basically go in order, right? I'm going to add a couple of labels to our nodes just to make things a little bit more organized. I'm going to call this CST in. I'm going to call this second one exposure. The third node, I want you to call balance or white balance. The fourth node, we're going to call saturation, if I could spell. And the fifth node is going to be called CST out. There we go. From there, you can right click and click Clean Up Node Graph to make the spacing a little bit easier to follow. What are we going to do to all of these nodes? Trust me, it's very simple stuff. Let's start with CST1. In order to apply a CST, go to Effects, and what you're looking for is Color Space Transform. Right here, drag that on to node number 1. In fact, we're going to exit out of this and throw another one onto node number 5. What is a color space transform? So we discussed earlier that this is log. You could think of that as one color space. But in order to grade it, we need to change it into a wider color space that allows for more changes. From there, once we've used all of these nodes, we end on another color space transform, where we take our wide color space and output it to a display color space, basically so that other people can see it, including yourself. Let's start on this first color space transform. Turn the tone mapping to none, and on input color space, you want this to be set to however you shot this footage. In my case, I used a Sony camera, so mine is Sony S-Gamut 3 Cine. And for the gamma, it's Sony S-Log 3. But for you, it might be Canon Log or Fuji Log. If you're editing for a client, ask them what color space they shot in or what log they shot in, and they should be able to give you that information. Output color space, though, is the same for everybody. Go to DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate. Make sure this is set to none. And then on our CST out, we want to start, again, for everybody, DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate. And then for our output color space, so that everybody can see it, go Rex 709 and Gamma 2.4. Again, these settings might be slightly different for a Mac. But there we go. We took it out of that nasty log gray color space into something we can actually see. That's why we did these two nodes first. So now these ones will be easier to adjust. Let's start first with exposure. Click on our node. And from here, we don't need any effects. We can just use the basic tools down here. So for this one, click on color wheels like so, and turn our pivot from 435 to 336. If you're not using DaVinci Wide Gamut, this number should be different. Now, what I'd like you to do is go to HDR, and the only thing you should change for exposure is this slider right here, EXP. If we drag it to the left, our footage will get darker, and if we drag it to the right, our footage will get brighter. That's all we're adjusting here. just the brightness value. So for me, I actually like how my clip looks. I'm just gonna darken it a tiny little bit, and I'm gonna keep it there. But obviously, depending on your footage, you should adjust it so that it looks bright enough for you. Okay, but that's it for exposure. We're moving on. Balance. Click on this node, right click, gamma, and change this to linear. This is basically an adjustment that will take us from having to use all 4 of these color wheels to just one. In our case, gain. I would also turn this Lumamix all the way down to 0. Okay, so how do we use white balance exactly? Well, if you notice on my skin, it's looking kind of red. Like this isn't how I look in real life. And that's because our colors are slightly off. If you go over here and select Vector Scope, click on this button and click Show 2x Zoom, Skin Tone Indicator, and Reticule. And then also on these 3 dots, click Display Qualifier Focus. I know that's a lot of settings, but here's what they did. Skin tone indicator is this gray line, and that's where we want our skin tone to fall. How do we know if it's falling there? Well, if you click here and click on qualifier and then hover over your skin, you'll see a circle popped up on our vector scope, and that shows us the exact color we're looking at. And you can see it's a bit farther to the right, like it's not sitting exactly on that line, which is unfortunate. I have a gray card here, and when I hover over that, it's close to the center, but there's a lot of colors that aren't. So what we're gonna do with balance is get our skin tone to sit on the line and get the rest of the colors to sit right in the middle. And the way you do that is by using the gain wheel. So I'm gonna click on this little point and move it over to the left, because remember, we're sitting a little far to the right on here. We're gonna move everything to the left, and we're gonna move this down. So I'm gonna click on my wheel, move it to the left, move it a bit down, right about there. Let's do a quick before and after. This is what it looked like before. Again, just look how pink and red everything is. And this is what it looked like after. In order to make that adjustment, I wasn't really looking over here at my footage. I was looking primarily on my vector scope. And you can see when we turn it on and off, the colors in our vector scope moved to a point that looked a lot nicer. So now we fixed a little bit of the colors, but the last thing we need to do is go to our saturation node and affect sort of the density of these colors. So how do we set up this correctly? Right click, color space, and what I'd like you to do is change this to HSV. Then right click, channels, and deselect channel 1 and channel 3. Why? I don't know. This is just how most people adjust saturation inside of Davinci Resolve. From there, all we have to do is to go back to our gain wheel, but rather than clicking on the wheel itself, I want you to use this bar down here. This affects everything as opposed to just the red, green, and blue channels. You could also go to these bars, and the same thing is available here. So you just click on this, and by moving it up, we make things more saturated, and by moving it down, we make things less saturated. You can also see what it's doing to our vector scope. Notice the colors are getting bigger and smaller. For me, I actually think this clip is a little too saturated, so I'm going to move it down to about 95. If your clip needs a little bit more color into it, then boost up the saturation. It's dependent on your clip and your workflow. I just know that this looks nice for my camera, so that's why I'm doing it. I would also highly advise, whether you're on exposure, balance, or saturation, to keep your changes very subtle. You do not need to go overboard. All you're doing is trying to get your clip to look close to normal. Basically how it looked in real life, or how it looked on your camera monitor. We can use other nodes to affect the actual grade, but all we're doing here is basic color correction. setting our clip to be normal and default so that if we wanted, we could add new nodes in between saturation and CST out and affect the image in more wild ways, like adding a teal and orange look, for example. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If we click on this button right here, this is what we had before, and this is what we had after. And I think anybody would be happy with this footage. And all it took was just a couple of notes. Now that we have all of this set up, let's go ahead and save this grade so that we don't have to redo this entire process. In order to do that, you can go to Gallery right here, and you'll notice we have two spots we can save our grade in. Stills are specific to this project, whereas power grades, similar to power bins, are grades that we can use inside of any project. So that's what I'm going to keep it on, power grade. Now, simply right-click on your clip, click Grab Still, and from here, we can rename it to Super Epic Grade, and now it is saved so that in any project we're working on, this will always be available. So if we delete all of these, and we're like, oh man, I got this log thing, how do I solve it? Use your middle mouse button, and it applies that grade to that clip. Pretty cool, right? For my final tip, I want to talk about how you can render multiple audio tracks inside of Davinci Resolve. Why is this useful? So let's go back to our Mega Man clip. You notice here we have multiple audio tracks. That's typically how I like to record things inside of OBS. I like having control of my gameplay audio, my voiceover, or if I have a friend, maybe he's on a different audio track. That way I can adjust things individually. And that's great and all, right? But what if you need to work with somebody else? The problem is that once you've made all these adjustments and you want to share that with another editor, if you render this out just as is, if you were to import in that clip, you'll notice that it combined all of our audio tracks into one. That's fine in a scenario where you're doing the audio editing and someone else is working on the visuals, but what if they don't like our edits? What if they want to bump the gameplay audio up? Well, now they don't have that choice. Well, what if there was a way that we could render out all of these extra audio tracks? Well, turns out it's really easy. Let's get rid of this and go back to our original clip as so. And this time I'm just going to get rid of all the volume adjustments. If you go to the deliver page, call this Mega Testing 2, go to the audio tab, and what you're looking for is this option right here, Output Track 1. By default, it's going to be set to Bus 1 Stereo. Bus is essentially a mix of all your different audio tracks. So it combines audio 1, audio 2, reverb, and audio 4. Well, if we want to render out all of these audio tracks, all we got to do is change this to all timeline tracks. So now it's going to render out all 4. But what if we only want to render out audio 1 and 2, for instance? Well, that's easy. You can go to timeline track, track number 1, we want that. And then if we hit plus, we can add track number 2. And then we're done. Go to add render queue, hit render, and now if we import that file into Davinci Resolve, bam, we have both of our audio tracks, just like we did on our original clip. And the cool thing is, this works for multiple editing softwares. So in this case, if I rendered it out into DaVinci and sent it to somebody who worked in Premiere Pro, they would also get both separate audio tracks. So now he can adjust it exactly how he prefers it. It's just an easier way of collaborating with people without having to share the original gigantic file back and forth between each other. I find it saves a lot of time while also giving the most control. But that's it. Those are my 5 tips inside of Davinci Resolve. Did you learn anything new? If you did, be sure to leave a comment. And hey, share your quick tips inside of Davinci Resolve. That way I can get even better. I've been Aiden, and I will see you guys next time.